As a retired teacher, I had always believed in the power of kindness and compassion. But when my own daughter sent me a cruel gift meant to frighten me into compliance, I realized that I had been too soft, too forgiving of her manipulative tactics. That's when I decided to take a stand, to cut her off financially and expose her true nature to the rest of the family. It was a painful decision, but one that I knew I had to make for the sake of my own dignity and well-being. This is the story of how I found the strength to stand up to my own Dild, and discovered the true meaning of tough love in the process. Before we continue, please subscribe to the channel and let us know where you're listening from in the comments. The package arrived on a rainy Tuesday morning. A nondescript brown box that sat on my front porch like a ticking time bomb. I stared at it for a long moment, a sense of unease washing over me like a cold wind. I'd been expecting something like this, had known in my gut that my daughter, Amanda, was up to her old tricks again. But even so, the sight of that innocuous little package filled me with a sense of dread and foreboding that I couldn't quite shake. With a heavy sigh, I bent down and picked up the box, carrying it into the house and setting it down on the kitchen table. I stared at it for a long moment, my mind racing with possibilities and fears. Amanda had always been a difficult Dild, prone to fits of anger and manipulation even from a young age. My wife, Margaret, and I had done our best to love and nurture her, to teach her the values of kindness and empathy that we held so dear. But, somewhere along the way, something had gone wrong. Amanda had grown into a selfish and manipulative young woman, always looking for ways to get what she wanted, no matter the cost to those around her. And now, it seemed, she had set her sights on me. I took a deep breath and reached for the scissors, carefully cutting through the packing tape and lifting the flaps of the box. Inside, nestled among the styrofoam peanuts, was a small, black object that looked like a cross between a remote control and a medical device. I lifted it out of the box with trembling fingers, my heart pounding in my chest as I examined it more closely. It was a personal alarm system, the kind that elderly people sometimes wore around their necks in case of falls or other emergencies. But this one was different. Instead of the usual red button or pull cord, it had a large, ominous-looking switch on the side, and the words, "Press in case of fear," printed in bold letters across the front. I felt a chill run down my spine as I realized the implications of the device, the cruel and twisted message that Amanda was sending me. She wanted me to be afraid, to live in constant fear of my own mortality and vulnerability. She wanted me to be dependent on her, to rely on her for my every need and whim. And she was willing to use any tactic, no matter how low or manipulative, to achieve that goal. I sat down heavily in one of the kitchen chairs, the device still clutched in my hand as I tried to process the shock and the betrayal of it all. How could my own daughter, the Dild I had raised and loved with all my heart, be so cruel and calculating? But even as I asked myself the question, I knew the answer. Amanda had always been selfish and manipulative, always looking out for her own interests above all else. And now, it seemed, she had decided that I was nothing more than a pawn in her game, a tool to be used and discarded at her whim. I felt a surge of anger rising up inside me, a hot and bitter rage that threatened to consume me whole. But I pushed it down, forcing myself to take a deep breath and think things through. Logically, I knew that I couldn't let Amanda get away with this, that I couldn't allow her to continue manipulating and controlling me like some kind of puppet on a string. But I also knew that I had to be smart about it, that I had to find a way to expose her true nature, without stooping to her level. And so with a heavy heart and a sense of grim determination, I began to plan my next move. I would cut Amanda off financially, refusing to give her another penny of my hard-earned money. And I would gather evidence of her manipulative tactics, exposing her cruelty and selfishness to the rest of the family. It would be a difficult and painful process, I knew. But it was the only way to break free of Amanda's grip, to reclaim my own dignity and autonomy in the face of her relentless manipulation. And so, with a final glance at the ominous little device that had started it all, I stood up and walked out of the kitchen, ready to face whatever challenges lay ahead. For I was Henry Lawson, a retired teacher and a widower, a man who had always believed in the power of kindness and compassion. And I would not let my own daughter destroy those values or the life I had worked so hard to build. No matter what it took, no matter how much it hurt, I would find a way to stand up to Amanda and to show her the true meaning of tough love, even if it meant losing her forever in the process. The next few weeks passed in a blur of activity and preparation. I threw myself into the task of gathering evidence against Amanda, of building a case that would expose her manipulative tactics and selfish behavior to the rest of the family. I went through old emails and text messages, highlighting the times when she had asked for money or favors, only to disappear or make excuses when it came time to repay the debt. I made a list of all the times she had lied or manipulated me, using guilt and emotional blackmail to get what she wanted, and I reached out to other members of the family, asking for their own stories and experiences with Amanda. To my surprise and dismay, I discovered that I was not the only one who had been subjected to her cruelty and selfishness. My son, David, told me about the time Amanda had borrowed his car and returned it with a dented fender, refusing to take responsibility or pay for the repairs. My sister, Catherine, shared how Amanda had promised to help with her wedding planning, only to back out at the last minute and leave her in the lurch. And my nephew, Michael, confessed that Amanda had once tried to seduce him, using her feminine wiles to manipulate him into giving her access to his trust fund. The more I learned, the more sickened and outraged I became. How could I have been so blind, so naive to the true nature of my own daughter? How could I have allowed her to get away with such behavior for so long? But even as I grappled with these questions, I knew that I couldn't dwell on the past, that I had to focus on the present and the future. And so, with a heavy heart and a sense of grim determination, I began to put my plan into action. The first step was to cut Amanda off financially. I closed the joint bank account we had shared, transferring the remaining funds into a new account in my name only. I canceled the credit cards she had been using and informed her that she would no longer have access to my money or my resources. The reaction was swift and furious. Amanda called me up, screaming and crying, accusing me of betrayal and abandonment. She threatened to sue me, to take me to court, and bleed me dry. But I held firm, calmly informing her that I would no longer be manipulated or controlled by her, that I was taking back my life and my autonomy. The next step was to confront Amanda directly, to lay out the evidence of her manipulative tactics and selfish behavior in front of the rest of the family. I invited everyone over for a family meeting, telling them only that there was something important we needed to discuss. When Amanda arrived, she was all smiles and charm, ready to play the role of the dutiful daughter. But her facade quickly crumbled as I began to speak, laying out the evidence of her lies and manipulations one by one. I showed them the emails and text messages, the lists of broken promises and unpaid debts. I shared the stories and experiences of other family members, painting a picture of a woman who cared only for herself, who was willing to use and abuse anyone who got in her way. Amanda tried to defend herself, to spin the story and make excuses. But the evidence was overwhelming, and the rest of the family was having none of it. They listened in shocked silence as I laid out the full extent of her cruelty and selfishness, their faces growing darker and more disgusted with each passing moment. And then, when I was finished, they turned me one by one. They spoke out against her, expressing their hurt and anger and disappointment. They told her how much she had hurt them, how much damage she had done to the family with her lies and manipulations. Amanda sat there in stunned silence, her face pale and her eyes wide with shock and disbelief. She had never expected this, had never imagined that her carefully constructed house of cards could come tumbling down so quickly and so completely. And then, As the last person finished speaking, she stood up and walked out of the room, her head held high and her shoulders shaking with suppressed rage and humiliation. I watched her go, feeling a mix of sadness and relief wash over me. I had done what I needed to do, had exposed the truth and set myself free from her manipulations. But I knew that the road ahead would be difficult, that there would be consequences and fallout from my actions. And yet, even as I faced that uncertain future, I couldn't help but feel a sense of pride and accomplishment. I had stood up for myself, had refused to be a victim any longer. And in doing so, I had reclaimed my own dignity and self-respect, had shown myself and the world that I was stronger than I ever knew. It was a bittersweet victory, to be sure. But it was a victory nonetheless, and one that I knew I would cherish for the rest of my days. For I was Henry Lawson, a retired teacher and a widower, a man who had faced down the darkness and emerged unbroken and unafraid. And I would never again allow anyone, not even my own daughter, to take that strength and that courage away from me. No matter what the future might bring, no matter what storms I might have to weather, I knew that I had the power and the resilience to face it all head-on, to emerge stronger and wiser and more compassionate than ever before. And that, in the end, was the greatest gift of all, the most precious legacy that I could leave behind. The weeks and months that followed were some of the most challenging and transformative of my life. In the wake of the family meeting and the revelation of Amanda's true nature, I found myself grappling with a host of emotions and challenges that I had never before faced. On one hand, I felt a sense of relief and liberation, a newfound freedom from the constant manipulation and control that had defined my relationship with Amanda for so long. I no longer had to walk on eggshells around her, no longer had to worry about saying or doing the wrong thing and incurring her wrath or disappointment. But on the other hand, I also felt a deep sense of loss and grief, a profound sadness at the realization that my own daughter, the Dild I had raised and loved with all my heart, was capable of such cruelty and selfishness. It was a bitter pill to swallow, a harsh truth that shook me to my very core. And then there were the practical challenges, the logistical and financial difficulties that came with cutting Amanda out of my life. I had to navigate the complexities of disentangling our finances, of separating our assets and closing joint accounts. I had to deal with the legal and emotional fallout of changing my will and power of attorney, of making sure that my wishes would be carried out even in the event of my incapacity or death. It was a daunting and overwhelming process, one that tested my strength and my resolve at every turn. But I refused to give up, refused to let the challenges and the setbacks defeat me. I drew on the same resilience and determination that had served me so well throughout my life, the same courage and compassion that had made me the man I was today. And slowly, but surely, I began to find my way forward, to build a new life and a new identity for myself in the aftermath of the upheaval and the betrayal. I reached out to old friends and colleagues, reconnecting with people who had known me before Amanda's manipulations had taken hold. I explored new hobbies and interests, discovering passions and talents that I had never before had the time or the energy to pursue. I volunteered at local schools and community centers, sharing my knowledge and experience with a new generation of students and learners. I found joy and fulfillment in the simple act of giving back, of making a difference in the lives of others in whatever small way I could. And through it all, I found myself growing and changing in ways that I had never before thought possible. I became more confident and self-assured, more comfortable in my own skin and my own identity. I learned to trust my own judgment and intuition, to listen to the quiet voice of wisdom that had always been there, guiding me through even the darkest of times. But even as I reveled in this newfound sense of self and purpose, I couldn't shake the feeling that something was still missing, that there was one more piece of the puzzle that I had yet to put into place. And that piece, I knew, was my relationship with Amanda. Despite everything that had happened, despite all the hurt and the betrayal and the anger, I still loved my daughter with all my heart. I still wanted to find a way to reconnect with her, to heal all the wounds that had been inflicted, and to build a new and healthier relationship based on honesty, respect, and mutual understanding. And so, with a heavy heart and a sense of trepidation, I reached out to Amanda once more, inviting her to meet with me and talk things through. I knew that it would be a difficult and painful conversation, that there would be tears and recriminations and old wounds reopened. But I also knew that it was a conversation that needed to happen, a reckoning that was long overdue. And to my surprise and relief, Amanda agreed to meet with me, to sit down and talk face to face for the first time in months. We met at a quiet cafe in the city, a neutral ground where we could both feel safe and comfortable. And as we sat across from each other, sipping our coffee and avoiding each other's gaze, I could feel the weight of all that had passed between us. The years of hurt and misunderstanding and missed opportunities. But I also felt a glimmer of hope, a tiny spark of possibility that perhaps, just perhaps, we could find a way to move forward, to heal all the wounds and rebuild the bond that had once been the foundation of our lives. And so, with a deep breath and a trembling voice, I began to speak, to pour out my heart and my soul to the daughter I had once known so well, and now barely recognized. I told her of my love and my pain, of my disappointment and my hope for the future. I shared with her the lessons I had learned and the truths I had discovered, the hard-won wisdom that had come at such a great cost. And as I spoke, I could see something shifting in Amanda's eyes, a flicker of recognition and understanding that had been absent for so long. She listened intently, her brow furrowed and her lips pressed together in concentration. And when I had finished, when I had said all that I needed to say, she took a deep breath and began to speak in turn. She told me of her own struggles and fears, of the insecurities and the doubts that had driven her to such desperate and destructive lengths. She spoke of the pressure she had felt to succeed, to live up to some impossible standard of perfection that she had set for herself. And she spoke of the guilt and the shame she had carried with her for so long, the heavy burden of knowing that she had hurt and betrayed the people she loved most in the world. And as I listened to her words, as I heard the pain and the vulnerability in her voice, I felt my heart begin to soften, to open up to the possibility of forgiveness and reconciliation. I knew that it would not be easy, that there would be many more conversations and many more challenges ahead. But I also knew that it was a journey that we had to take together, a path that we had to walk hand in hand if we ever hoped to find our way back to each other. And so, with tears in our eyes and hope in our hearts, we made a promise to each other that day, a vow to keep trying, to keep working, to keep fighting for the love and the connection that had once been the center of our lives. We knew that it would be a long and difficult road, that there would be setbacks and obstacles at every turn. But we also knew that it was a road worth taking, a journey that would lead us to a brighter and more beautiful future, together. For we were Henry and Amanda Lawson, father and daughter, two souls bound by the unbreakable bonds of love and family. And as long as we had each other, as long as we had the courage and the compassion to keep reaching for the light, then we knew that there was nothing we could not overcome, no challenge we could not face. And that, in the end, was the greatest gift of all, the most precious treasure that any parent or Dild could ever hope to receive, the gift of a second chance, a new beginning, a love that could weather any storm and emerge stronger and more beautiful than ever before. The months that followed were a time of healing and growth, of rebuilding the bonds of love and trust that had been so badly frayed by the trials we had endured. Amanda and I met regularly, sometimes over coffee or lunch, sometimes for long walks in the park or quiet evenings at home. We talked about everything and nothing, sharing our hopes and fears, our joys and sorrows. We laughed and cried together, remembering the good times and the bad, the moments of triumph and the moments of despair. And slowly but surely, we began to find our way back to each other, to rediscover the deep and abiding love that had always been the foundation of our relationship. It wasn't easy, and there were times when the old wounds threatened to reopen, when the hurt and the anger and the betrayal seemed too much to bear. But we persevered, drawing strength from each other and from the unshakable belief that our bond was worth fighting for, that the love we shared was stronger than any obstacle or challenge that life could throw our way. As the weeks turned into months, I watched with pride and amazement as Amanda began to transform before my very eyes. She started seeing a therapist, working through the deep-seated issues and insecurities that had driven her to such desperate and destructive lengths. She took up painting and writing, discovering new outlets for her creativity and her passion. She volunteered at a local women's shelter, using her own experiences to help other women who had suffered from manipulation and abuse. And through it all, she grew stronger and more confident, more at peace with herself and the world around her. She learned to trust her own judgment and intuition, to listen to the quiet voice of wisdom that had always been there, guiding her towards a broader and more beautiful future. I marveled at the woman she was becoming, at the strength and resilience that had always been there, hidden beneath the layers of fear and insecurity. And I knew that, no matter what challenges lay ahead, she would face them with courage and grace, with the unshakable belief that she was capable of overcoming anything that life could throw her way. But even as I reveled in Amanda's transformation, even as I felt the warmth and the joy of our rekindled relationship, I couldn't shake the feeling that there was still more work to be done, that there were still lessons to be learned and truths to be discovered. And so, with a sense of purpose and determination, I threw myself into my own journey of growth and self-discovery. I started writing again, putting pen to paper for the first time in years, pouring out my thoughts and feelings in a torrent of words and emotions. I explored new hobbies and interests, taking up gardening and bird-watching, discovering the simple joys of being out in nature and observing the beauty of the world around me. I deepened my friendships and relationships, reaching out to old acquaintances and making new connections, building a network of support and love that would sustain me through whatever challenges lay ahead. And through it all, I found myself growing and changing in ways that I had never before thought possible. I became more patient and understanding, more attuned to the needs and feelings of others. I learned to let go of the past and embrace the present, to find joy and meaning in the simple pleasures of everyday life. But perhaps the greatest change of all was the one that took place deep within my own heart, the quiet revolution that transformed the way I saw myself and the world around me. I had always been a man of principle and integrity, a teacher and a mentor who believed in the power of knowledge and compassion to change lives and transform the world. But now, I began to see those values in a new light, to understand them not just as abstract ideals, but as the very essence of what it meant to be human, to be alive and awake and engaged with the world around us. I saw that true wisdom was not just about accumulating facts and figures, but about cultivating a deep and abiding sense of empathy and understanding, a willingness to see the world through the eyes of others and to find the common ground that united us all. And I saw that true strength was not just about being tough or resilient, but about being vulnerable and open, about having the courage to face our fears and our flaws and to embrace the messiness and complexity of the human experience. These were the lessons that I had learned through the trials and tribulations of my own life, the hard-won truths that had been forged in the fires of adversity and pain. And now, as I looked to the future with hope and excitement, I knew that I had a responsibility to share those lessons with others, to use my own experiences to make a difference in the world, and to leave a legacy of love and compassion that would endure long after I was gone. And so, with a sense of purpose and passion, I began to write in earnest, to pour out my heart and soul onto the page, crafting stories and essays and poems that spoke to the deepest truths of the human experience. I wrote about love and loss, about forgiveness and redemption, about the incredible resilience and strength of the human spirit. I wrote about my own journey, about the challenges and the triumphs that had shaped me into the man I was today. And I wrote about the lessons I had learned along the way, the wisdom and the insight that I hoped would inspire and uplift others, that would help them to find their own path to healing and growth and transformation. And as the words flowed from my pen, as the pages began to pile up and the manuscript began to take shape, I felt a sense of joy and fulfillment that I had never known before. A deep and abiding sense of purpose and meaning that filled every corner of my being. For I knew that I was doing what I had always been meant to do, that I was using my gifts and my experiences to make a difference in the world, to touch hearts and change lives in ways that I could never have imagined. And I knew that, no matter what challenges lay ahead, no matter what storms I might have to weather in the years to come, I would always have this moment, this shining example of what it meant to be alive, to be human, to be part of something greater than myself. For I was Henry Lawson, a teacher, a father, a writer, and a seeker of truth and beauty and meaning. And as long as I had breath in my body and love in my heart, I would continue to strive and to serve, to give back to the world that had given me so much. And that, in the end, was the greatest gift of all, the most precious legacy that any man could ever hope to leave behind. As the years passed and the seasons changed, I found myself settling into a new rhythm of life, a new sense of purpose and meaning that filled every waking moment. My days were spent writing and teaching, sharing my stories and my wisdom with anyone who would listen, pouring my heart and soul into the work that had become my greatest passion and my deepest joy. I traveled the country, speaking at schools and universities, at community centers and retirement homes. I shared my experiences and my insights with people of all ages and backgrounds, inspiring them to find their own paths to healing and growth, to embrace the challenges and the opportunities of life with courage and compassion. And everywhere I went, I was met with an outpouring of love and support, with tears of joy and gratitude from those whose lives had been touched by my words and my presence. They told me stories of their own struggles and triumphs, of the ways in which my message had resonated with them and given them hope in their darkest hours. And through it all, I felt a sense of connection and purpose that I had never known before. A deep and abiding sense of belonging to something greater than myself, to a community of seekers and dreamers who were all working towards a brighter and more beautiful future. But even as I reveled in this new chapter of my life, even as I felt the warmth and the joy of making a difference in the world, I never forgot the lessons that I had learned, the truths that had been seared into my soul by the fires of adversity and pain. I never forgot the importance of forgiveness and compassion, of the incredible power of love to heal all, even the deepest wounds, and bridge even the widest divides. I never forgot the strength and resilience of the human spirit, the incredible capacity of the heart to endure and to overcome, no matter how great the challenge or how daunting the odds. And most of all, I never forgot the bond that I shared with Amanda, the unbreakable connection that had been forged in the crucible of our shared struggles and our shared triumphs. She was my rock and my anchor, my partner in this journey of discovery and growth, and I knew that I could never have come this far without her love and her support. Together, we continued to work on our relationship, to nurture the seeds of understanding and trust that had been planted in those early days of reconciliation. We laughed, and we cried. We celebrated, and we mourned. We faced the ups and downs of life, with the strength and the courage that only a true partnership could provide. And as the years went by, as the lines on our faces grew deeper and the hairs on our heads grew grayer, we found ourselves growing closer and more connected than ever before, bound by a love that had weathered every storm and emerged stronger and more beautiful than we ever could have imagined. It was a love that sustained us through the challenges and the joys of our golden years, through the inevitable losses and the unexpected gifts that life had in store. It was a love that gave us the strength to face our own mortality with grace and dignity, to cherish every moment and to make the most of every day. And when the time came for me to take my final bow, to say goodbye to this world and all the wonders it had shown me, I knew that I was ready, that I had lived a life of purpose and meaning, a life that had made a difference in the world and in the hearts of those I loved. I passed away peacefully in my sleep, surrounded by the love and the light of my family and friends, secure in the knowledge that my legacy would live on, that the seeds I had planted would continue to grow and flourish long after I was gone. And as I took my last breath, as I felt my spirit soar free from the bonds of this mortal coil, I knew that I had found the answer to the great mystery of life, the secret to true happiness and fulfillment. It was love, pure and simple. The love that we give and the love that we receive. The love that connects us all in an intricate web of beauty and meaning. It was the love that had sustained me through the darkest of times and the brightest of joys. The love that had given my life purpose and direction. The love that had made everything worthwhile. And so, as I passed from this world to the next, as I embarked on the greatest adventure of all, I did so with a heart full of gratitude and a soul full of peace, knowing that I had lived and loved with all that I had, and that I had left the world a little brighter and a little more beautiful than I had found it. For I was Henry Lawson, a teacher, a father, a writer, and a seeker of truth and beauty and meaning. And as long as my story was remembered, as long as my words continued to inspire and uplift, then I knew that my spirit would endure, that my legacy would live on in the hearts and minds of all those who came after me. And that, in the end, was the greatest gift of all, the most precious treasure that any man could ever hope to leave behind. So let us go forth with courage and compassion, with open hearts and open minds, ready to embrace the joys and the sorrows of this incredible journey that we call life. Let us love deeply and live fully. Let us give of ourselves freely and without reservation, knowing that in the end, it is the love that we share that will be our greatest legacy and our most enduring testament. And let us never, ever forget the power of forgiveness and understanding, the incredible capacity of the human heart to heal all and to grow, no matter how great the wound or how deep the pain. For that is the true magic and the true miracle of this life that we have been given, and it is a magic that lives within each and every one of us, just waiting to be unleashed upon the world. So let us go forth with joy and with wonder, with the courage and the wisdom of those who have gone before us. For the best is yet to come, and the love that we share will light the way, now and forevermore. It has been 10 years since my father, Henry Lawson, passed away. 10 years since the world lost one of its brightest lights and most beautiful souls. And not a day goes by that I don't think of him, that I don't feel the warmth of his love and the wisdom of his words guiding me through the twists and turns of my own journey. He left behind a legacy of kindness and compassion, of strength and resilience in the face of even the greatest challenges. He showed me what it means to live a life of purpose and meaning, to use our gifts and our experiences to make a difference in the world and in the lives of those we love. And he taught me the true power of forgiveness and understanding, the incredible capacity of the human heart to heal all and to grow, even in the wake of the deepest wounds and the most bitter betrayals. It was a lesson that I had learned the hard way, through the trials and tribulations of my own life, through the mistakes and the missteps that had brought me to the brink of ruin. But it was a lesson that I had also learned through the love and the guidance of my father, through the unwavering support and the unconditional acceptance that he had shown me, even in my darkest hours. And now, as I look back on the incredible journey that we shared, as I reflect on the love and the laughter and the tears that we experienced together, I can't help but feel a deep sense of gratitude and wonder for the incredible gift that he was, for the light and the love that he brought into my life and into the world. I see his legacy everywhere I look, in the stories and the songs that he left behind, in the hearts and the minds of all those who were touched by his words and his presence. I see it in the eyes of my own Dildren, in the curiosity and the compassion that they bring to every new experience and every new encounter. And I see it in myself, in the strength and the resilience that I have found within my own heart, in the courage and the wisdom that I have gained through the challenges and the triumphs of my own life. For I am Amanda Lawson, a daughter, a mother, a seeker of truth and beauty and meaning. And I know that, as long as I hold fast to the lessons and the love that my father taught me, as long as I continue to strive and to serve and to give of myself freely and without reservation, then his spirit will live on, his legacy will endure, and the world will be a brighter and more beautiful place for all those who come after us. So let us go forth with joy and with gratitude, with the strength and the courage of those who have been touched by the love and the light of Henry Lawson. Let us remember the lessons that he taught us, the laughter that he shared with us, the incredible gift of his life and his presence in our world. And let us never, ever forget the power of love to heal all and to transform, to lift us up and to set us free. For that is the true magic and the true miracle of this life that we have been given, and it is a magic that lives within each and every one of us, just waiting to be unleashed upon the world. So, let us go forth with love and with light, with the wisdom and the grace of those who have gone before us. For the best is yet to come, and the love that we share will guide us every step of the way. Thank you, Dad, for everything. And may your spirit soar free and your love shine bright, now and forevermore. If you found Henry's story of love, forgiveness, and the power of the human spirit inspiring, please hit the like button and subscribe to our channel for more uplifting tales of everyday heroes making a difference in the world. And don't forget to share your own experiences and reflections in the comments below. We all have a story to tell, a lesson to learn, a legacy to leave. By sharing our journeys and our truths, we inspire and uplift each other, and we create a world that is a little broader, a little more beautiful, a little more full of hope and possibility. So keep shining your light, my friends. Keep loving and learning, keep growing and giving, keep seeking the truth and the beauty that lies within each and every one of us. The world needs more heroes like Henry Lawson, more everyday champions of compassion and kindness, of strength and resilience in the face of even the greatest challenges. And together, we can build a future that is worthy of his legacy, a future that is full of love and light, of joy and wonder and endless possibility. So let us go forth with courage and with faith, with the wisdom and the grace of those who have gone before us. For the best is yet to come, and the love that we share will light the way, now and forevermore. Thank you, and may the spirit of Henry Lawson guide us all, today and always.